time researching her subject. I won't tell you how long exactly because I don't ever talk about age or weight, especially mine. People who have heard her speak say her presentation can be applied to any ethnicity. Big word for where you came from, your roots. And I did grow up with black patent leather shoes. Lorraine lives in Sanford. She grew up there. She started college at age 34, ended up with a BA in English and a master's in adult education at the USM. She worked as a counselor, as a director at York Community College. She plays piano by ear. She sings in local groups. She's performed with the Sea Glass Performing Arts Group. She still teaches at the senior college. I think I found my new best friend, Lorraine Masure.
Thank you, Bev. I've grown to like Bev so much. She and her husband do so much good in these communities. Congratulations, Bev. And thank you for inviting me here this evening. It was about a year ago when Bev wrote to me, and as a matter of fact, when came April, I said, I wonder if it's still a gig. And then I heard from her. And I want to compliment you on a delicious meal that certainly was ample and wonderful. And your website. When I heard from Bev, I went on the website, and this enchanting space that is, as an educator, as a former educator, is so intriguing to look at. So, I was born a first-generation American. And somebody said that I would talk and that people might talk while I'm up here. If they do, there will be detention. I come from Sister Mary Adolph, remember? I am a first-generation American in these here parts. I was born in Lewiston, Maine, which I think is pretty close by. And I never approached this area that I don't remember my roots. And we lived in Lewiston a short time, but it had a great impact on me. And most of my stories, a lot of them relate to Auburn. I was told about the flood of 1928. Hello, David.
Hi.
The flood of 1928, when my mother was in the mills here, it might have been a shoe shop, and she couldn't get home until late that night. And also, my first cousin is Armin Cody, rest his soul. Cody Rigging, I think. Cody Crane, yes. Which we always, when we come to Lewiston, we always look over there with pride. So, in short, there are a lot of things here that remind me of, it's a Marcel Proust. If you know Marcel Proust, he talks about privileged moments. The treasurer is assenting. Good sign. And he says that sometimes you see one thing and it brings back a whole array of memories from your childhood. And for me, that whenever I see a fern plant, F-E-R-N, I think of when I was at my meme's on Pleasant Street in Lewiston, and out this high, and Pleasant Street has hills. I found out today that Auburn has hills too. Praise God for the navigation system. So anyways, a little girl, and sliding up Pleasant Street, and started to have to go to the bathroom, and one more slide. One more slide. You've been there. Mm-hmm. One more slide. Finally, I gave in to my biology, went in the house, and went upstairs and relieved myself. And then when I came downstairs, my mama had the meal all laid out, which was some nice soup and everything. And honest to God, there'll be detention. Honest to God, the ceiling began to leak. I had forgotten to turn off the faucet. I see a fern, all of that comes back. Marcel Proust. So my book has Lewiston as a major setting, but since, you know, it all began in Lewiston, it's very close to where we are here. You will identify a lot with the book because, as Beverly said, it doesn't matter the ethnicity. You just change the menus and some of the culture, and you will identify with it. And I want to thank you for being here, by the way. You sound like such a friendly, nice group. You have great food. I want to come back, Belle. I absolutely recognize that this is not a book signing event as such. So when I first had the book published, I wanted to look that up because it sounded rather glamorous, right? Stephen King time. So what I did was I looked up Google, you know, what is a book signing event like? And Google said that if you have a successful book signing event, well, the hostess, that would be Bev, has a place for you to stand or speak from, and 2 people show up, and 1 buys a book. So we've already exceeded that this evening. It was an idyllic childhood. My mom was an incurable romantic who often woke us up in the morning. You probably had such a mother with the fragrance of warm cinnamon cake, raising the shades, Rodgers and Hammerstein, oh, what a beautiful morning. Woo! And my father, you know, opposites attract. My father was a good man, a serious man, and a brilliant man, very little formal education, 10th grade, who tended to be more direct than romantic in his behaviors. And you know, the poet Emily Dickinson said, "Tell the truth, but tell it slant." Dad didn't slant. Dad told the truth. So, you know, if this presentation is successful, it will be because you'll probably insert something here and there. Please feel free to do that. You know, it should not come off as some constipated lecture that everybody's saying, what time is it now? Time to renew my driver's license? Whatever. So here's what I like to do, with your permission. I would like to speak not necessarily about the contents of the book, but I'd like to speak around the book. You can read the book in the comfort of your own home, in your jammies, with an adult beverage. You don't need me to be reading you the book. And I will read a short excerpt from the book. I will answer any questions you have, no math. And I will sign books for anyone who would like to buy one this evening. So, reporter asked, how did I write the book? It was already written. I had, for the last 10 years maybe, gone around southern Maine, southern New Hampshire, death by PowerPoint. I had talked about growing up Franco-American. So it was there for me. And a friend, Janice Longfellow, now her husband writes books about the Red Sox, and I know they're 8.5 games behind, but I dare say. Very successful books. He has great titles like From Beer to Beards. Even I know what that means. He writes Pappy and the Kids. He writes the Bathroom Red Sox book. Anyways, his books are so popular that what he does is, one of the things he does, he goes to Kennebunkport during the tourist season. He inverts a milk can and he sits there, and all of those Massachusetts people buy his book. However, you know, he has a wider swath than I do. But speaking to Jan, who had been to one of my presentations, she said, you know, you really ought to put these thoughts in a book. You know, writing a book, I mean, that was as inappropriate for me as to have lost 10 pounds, you know. But it was Jan who did it. The difficult part was attribution. If you remember college or high school, you have to give credit to people when you quote them. Now, you know, when you're talking and presenting, you say, well, you know, Jean Lafitte said blah, 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 and you don't have to have a bibliography. But when you write it down in a book, you legally have to give credit to the people. So that was a little bit difficult to do, to recall all that. Some people say, why did I write the book? Why did you write this book? Well, first reason, to document the bravery of my grandparents in their decision to leave their agrarian way of life in Quebec and come to the States in our mills to earn a predictable paycheck. That is big. When you are in an agrarian society, you eat what you grow. I remember my dad saying, you know, we go to Hannaford's Market Basket and we buy Lysol, we buy deodorant, all this stuff. Maybe I'll remember, it was tea, certainly flour. There were 3 things they bought at the grocery store, that was it. But anyways, they lived this agrarian lifestyle about 400 miles from Rimouski, province de Quebec, the province of Quebec. And they came from manual labor to a predictable paycheck. And so it was not always easy. They left their friends behind, they left their homesteads behind, but that was the first reason why they left. And you'll see in a minute that that timing was great because the mechanical age has the Industrial Revolution. You've got mills, you've got machinery, you've got steam, watt. And so they also left Canada to evade the English government there. After the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, they were not treated that well. So when you see that license plate, that Quebec license plate, what does it say? Je me souviens. Je me souviens. I remember. And they're still remembering, those Quebecois. So, why do I write they were brave to come to this country? Well, as I said first, new culture. Industrial Revolution, when the machine is invented, it had originated in England, mid-1800s, and now it's 1912, and it's traveled all the way over here to, especially to New England, because we have fast running water here. And so here they were, they emigrated to the Cochico mills in Dover, the Bates mills in Lewiston, good old Sanford in my hometown, Pepperell mills in Biddeford, the Barker mill in Auburn, and the mill owners heartily welcomed these people. Their work ethic was great. So it was a symbiotic, very, very good relationship. To have gone from that agrarian way to the mechanical way was quite a different in culture. Just like right now, we've gone from the mechanical age to the digital age. And if you've done that, check the iPhone users in a public place. A second reason why I write that they were brave to come to this country is they were peasants. They had no formal education. My grandparents never went inside of a school. Lots of common sense. My grandparents, my grandmother, and I never could find out how, would read the French newspaper to her husband every evening. Must have been well, no, it wouldn't have been the Lewiston Sun Journal. Might have been. The Messager is, exactly. Thank you. Let me write that down. The next group will think I'm smart. So they were peasants. So, you know, I had, in my office, I had a wall over here that said, Mark Twain, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And it's very expensive to be ignorant. And they, in terms of formal education, they had none. So they didn't even know the language. This is another language for them. And the only reason why they could keep the jobs that they did, because it was repetitive work. And so once it was explained to them how you do this job, burling is whatever they do in mills and shoe shops, they would learn it, and then, you know, the widgets are coming down the line and the pieces of wool, and so that their poor knowledge of English didn't hurt them that much, you know. So, and the second reason that they were brave to come to this country is they were poor, dirt poor. You know, you can wax romantic about frugality and minimalism and how wonderful that is, but money is an economic weapon, and they had very, very little of it. Thirdly, they had large families, many children. My grandmother had 9 children and was pregnant with the 10th when they crossed the lines, as they called it then. The Holy Roman Catholic Church, and don't throw tomatoes, because I'm there every Sunday morning, but that was the reason why the large families. Lastly, they were British citizens. They had never lived under a democracy. Their birth certificates attest to that. And so my first reason for writing the book was to document how very brave they were, leaving their home for a strange place, having very little formal education or money, with the large responsibility of family. Second reason why I wrote the book, to compare and contrast what life was like once they settled here. Hence the title of the book, Growing Up Franco-American, with no, thank you, just as we rehearsed it. The woman's a board. Are you taking notes, sir? Detention. I'm used to it. This is my book, and I, honest to God, when I sent this picture to the publisher, I thought it would be somewhere here. But he wisely chose it to be here because it's so iconically, you know, here's me ready to go to Mass with my hat, of course, St. Paul. We have to cover our heads.